Good evening. My name is Rita. Tonight we'll be talking about defect life cycle or bug life cycle. So some of the topics we'll be talking about today is what is a defect, reasons for defect rejection, when do we close a bug defect, and defect life cycle stage. So as we can see on the screen, I can hear myself. I don't know why it's echoing back.
Can you take it to that other slide? I want to spin screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we have defect life cycle. Define a defect. In a software testing, a defect refers to any deviation or flaw in the software application that causes it to behave differently from its expected or specified behavior. As we all know, defects can also be addressed as bugs or issues, but most organizations use mainly defects or bugs, and can range from minor to cosmetic issue to critical errors that can lead to system failures. Thereby, detecting and fixing the defect is a crucial part of the software development lifecycle to ensure that the final product meets quality standard and user expectation. So we have been talking about defects. Defects are bugs that you have found in applications. How do you find defects in application? By executing test cases that has been designed by you as a tester or any other tester. When it fails, you report the defect. So sometimes some organizations also use bug tracking tools. I think some people do have it on their system. Some are plug-in, some can be downloaded to track your bugs. It's a good practice anyway if you can do that. So I'll quickly give us an illustration. Imagine you are testing a web application for an online shopping platform. Maybe the login features you are testing, the user registration process and things like that. So the expected behavior would be that when you entered your valid registration information, such as username, email, password, and you submit the form, they should be successfully registered and redirected to a confirmation page. Then during testing, you as a tester, you notice that when user submits the registration form with a valid user email and password, the system displays an error message stating invalid email format, even though the email format is correct. The user is unable to then proceed, or you as the tester is unable to proceed with the registration process. The discrepancy between the expected behavior and the actual behavior of the system indicates a defect. The defect in this case is related to the email, which is the email validation functionality of the registration. This means it's incorrect, identifies a valid email. That means that's a bug, that's a defect. So as a tester, you have to raise that as a bug. That's one example of identifying a bug. There are other different ways to identify bugs. That's just on maybe a registration form. As we progress, I'll use more analogy, more. So we also have defect life cycle. The defect life cycle describes the different state a bug can be in through its entire life cycle. Because once you find a defect, that means a bug is born. I'll put it that way. The moment a bug is found, that's the forming stage, because it's a circle. So it begins from there. Then the defect life cycle describes the stages through which a defect progresses from identification to resolution. Because from there has to be a solution. So it goes from the stage of finding the bugs into what is the solution. But before you get there, there are also process. It goes through different process. So we'll get there. Then it helps to track the status of defects and ensure they are effectively managed and resolved. The defect lifecycle also involves the classification of the different priorities and the severity of the bugs identified by the testing team. So in defect life cycle, there are two things we should be aware of, which are priorities and the severity. So those two things are something that should always come to, or that you should have at the back of your mind as a tester. Then we also have the defect priority refers to the order which defect should be resolved. I'll move to the next slide if that's okay. So on the screen, we have this illustration. You have the new, you have the assigned, you have the open, you have the fixed, pending retest, retest, reopened, verified, closed, duplicate, rejected, deferred, and not a bug. So all this process is the life cycle. It looks sequential, yeah, but then it can have a different tone depending on as the case may be. Let me put it that way. So from new to assigned, then you open. Then if it's a duplicate, it can be rejected, it can be deferred, and it can be classified as not a bug. And then if you look at where we also have the retest, you have the reopened there. When the reopen simply means that when you test it, maybe it failed, you have to reopen it again. And then once it's reopened, you go through the verify, and then like that. So that's the defect life cycle. So we also have reasons for, which brings us to the fact that why do we have rejected defects? So sometimes a defect can be raised and then it can be rejected by your test lead or your test manager or your developer. So we'll start with the enhancements. So some of the reasons are enhancement, not enough information on your report, defect not reproducible, out of scope defect, duplicate defect. For enhancements, The simple illustration I can use here is if a tester finds a bug of that he thinks is a bug, maybe it's not a bug. What that is was an enhancement that was made. For instance, let's look at a login feature where you had like a test value for email address and password, but the link for forgotten password was not there initially. Let me see if I have the diagram, which is this picture. As you can see, you have where the email test value and the password test value. So then you have the link for the forgotten password there. Let's say in the requirement that was not included, that forgotten password. And then you as a tester, you have tested it before, you passed it, and you saw that that wasn't there. Or in the acceptance criteria that was given to you, the requirement, you didn't have that forgotten password there. And then you get to the website and then you can find that there on the environment. You decide to raise it as a bug. Then you take it, once you've raised the bug, obviously your test lead need to approve it, analyze it and all that. So once that is being taken to the test lead or the developer and it says, no, this is not a bug. Reason is because an enhancement has been done because the client had a communication with the development team to enhance the user interface. They want this there. And probably the testers work remotely and this information didn't get to them on time and things like that. So, and you are not aware of it. That's why you've raised it as a bug. But that doesn't mean you don't know what you are doing, because that is not part of the requirement and you decide to raise it as a bug. It is, to you, it is a bug because it's not in your requirement, but because the development team already have a communication from the client to say, I want this to be, probably this information didn't get to you before now, and you have found this and then decide to raise it as a bug. That's one reason, enhancement, why a bug can be rejected. Such bug can be rejected because as a tester, you need to have eyes for details, and you've done that. So you won't be penalized for doing that. But it's just the only thing here is you haven't done anything wrong. Maybe we'll say miscommunication or things like that, but it is the bottom line is just that it's not a bug, it's not a valid bug. So in that case, it becomes invalid, it becomes rejected, and then it has to be taken, or you have to close such bug. Actually, you have to close it because it's invalid. So we'll go back to the next one, which is not enough information on your report. So I was trying to get a diagram for this, but I couldn't get one. I don't know why. For this, not enough information on your report. So normally as a tester, when you raise a bug on the Azure board, which I'm more conversant with, once you raise a bug, you get your steps to reproduce, which everything comes up there. So you have a place where you can attach your screenshots. In some cases, you can attach your videos, and then you have the description of what you were looking for. And then you have to add your expected results and your actual results in your test report, in your test to reproduce, or steps to reproduce. So if after doing all this and your test lead or your test manager still can't get the valid information, like you still don't understand the reason for the defect, he can reject it as well. So that's when we say not enough information. Then you as a tester will go back and look at your report, what was not included. And then before that, you have to, the test lead or the test manager or whoever needs to give you a clear information as well as per what he didn't understand there. And then you will go back and come back with a more clear and concise, detailed report. That is another one. Then we also have defect not reproducible. So this defect not reproducible is, again, in your steps to reproduce, you do have the steps there. And then when you present your, another reason for defect rejection, which is the defect not reproducible. When you produce your defect and it's being rejected because it says defect not reproducible, it simply means that the test lead or the test manager has also taken the steps you took to carry out that test to find that defect, but has come back to the test manager could not find the defect. It didn't replicate on his own laptop. So in such case, as a tester, you have to go extra mile. That's when you have to go back and dig and find out why. Again, you will have to carry out that test again to be sure. Once you carry out that test again, then close the door. Thank you. Once you carry out that test again, and you are sure that the defect is there, you then come back to your manager or your test lead and say, maybe you should try it on a different browser. Maybe the browser you found that defect was in a Chrome browser, and your test lead or your test manager could have been using a different browser, maybe Microsoft Edge. So then that's one step ahead. You just have to bring everything. You just have to look for every reason to defend your defect, to defend that defect that you've produced, thereby making sure it replicates on the test manager's laptop or system. So on the other hand, we also have out of scope defects, another reason for this to be rejected. So I remember one of the cohorts, I think the fourth cohorts ago, some of them were raising bugs. Meanwhile, because it's not a greenfield application, so the environment is already ready. But you as a tester, when you are testing, you have to face, or let me put it that way, you have to align with what you have been given. Say for instance, you have a login features, or let me say header, and then you get there, you find a footer. You don't have to raise a bug that you are finding a footer there, because you've not been told it's a greenfield application. I did explain what a greenfield application is last time. So once we then had some people raising bugs saying, oh, there's a on the footer menu, they were finding social media icons and stuff, things like that. So therefore they were raising bugs because they were finding that there. No, you have to follow the acceptance criteria. If you are working on a, let me say, I've used login too much now, registration, or no, let me not use that one, contact us. And then you go there, you find about us. You don't have to raise a bug that you find about us. Follow what you are meant to do, the requirement of contact us. Because don't forget, this application is already brownfield application. It's not a greenfield. So regardless of whatever other features that are there, these are for future purpose. So you don't have to raise a bug concerning all this. I don't know if we understand so far. Can I get
Sorry if I may comment. Can you repeat again for this? Sorry, can you just repeat again? What do you mean by greenfield application, brownfield application? So that we
yes,
can. Sorry.
no, that's fine. So greenfield application is a non code or system application whereby you are starting everything from the scratch. Why brownfield is an application that is already in existence, there's already code, the system is already there. That's just the difference between the two.
If I understand what you said, the brownfield is more like it can always be happening in agile. Maybe the software is already out and they are just upgrading on it to find defects.
Yes, as well as greenfield can be agile as well. Yes. So what you just said is right. More of agile, but greenfield can also be agile because sometimes on the advanced, we start from the scratch on projects that we are doing. So, and we still work in agile environment. So that's just what it is. So I'm gonna just I've talked about out of scope. And then for duplicate defects, sorry?
Just mention it for a duplicate.
Yes, thank you. So for duplicate defects, these are defects that as a tester, this is when we say you have to have eyes for details. If you are not the only tester, for instance, and the tester have already raised the bug, and you go again and raise that same bug, and maybe the previous bug has already been valid. You raising another bug for the same PBI, for instance, we then make it a duplicate. So in that instance, it can be rejected by your test lead or your developer.
My phone just did.
So this is another diagram like the other one. You have the new, which can be rejected, and then the deferred on the other side, and the reopen. It's just the same thing, but what happened in the previous one is I think that one had the duplication, they rejected the deferred, saying it's not a bug. So it's not like that was purposely done just for you guys to see the difference. So these are the circle, it goes round. As we continue, we'll get to know more about that. For defect life cycle, these are the process. So once a bug is raised, it becomes a new item. So it says the defect has been raised but hasn't been validated yet. Then in Agile, you assign it to a developer. So that's when you assign a member of the development team has been assigned the defect. So you have to assign it. And another thing I must emphasize is you have to put a good title for the defect. Sorry, if you are not speaking, can you be muted, please? Somebody is speaking. I don't know who that is. So then you have the active. The defect is now being investigated by the development team. Once they investigate the defects, so for you to know, it has to be, any defect you raise must be investigated. So once it's investigated and they are happy with it, that it's valid, then it goes through as active. Then the defect has been fixed, now ready for the QA to verify because once a bug is raised and then you put it in the dev column, it goes no, new item, and then the developer works on it. When it's done, they put it, when the developer is satisfied with it on the Azure board, he puts it in the in-dev column. Once it's done, he puts it on the dev done column. And then from the dev done column, you as a tester will pick it up from there and move it into QA and work on it. So that's when the QA verifies it. Then you say reopen. The purpose fix has been rejected by the QA team. So the issues remained unsolved. So if you as a tester, even when the developer says it's been fixed, you have to retest it. So if you retest it and the test fail, the test fail, you have to reopen it. You have to let the developer know, and then verify the defect has been fixed and verified again by the QA team. Again, you see, these are the circle until there's a closure. So, and a closure can vary. It could be detailed, it could be rejected, it could be closed. Then you then have the closed bit, which is if the defect no longer exists, the state of the bug is fixed and set to close. Then you also have the rejected. So if the defect has already been raised, not reproducible or not a defect, then the bug can enter a rejected state. And we then have the defect. So this one means when the bug has been prioritized for the next release. So sometimes you might raise the bug, and when they investigate this bug, they might say, oh, okay, you know what? This bug, we will have to prioritize it for the next release. So sometimes you might have to close it, or you might just leave it like that. And then in the next sprint, it can come up. That is for defect. And for the closed, sometimes you use the tracking system as well to update accordingly. And then the defect is marked as closed. Because sometimes I've seen cases that people will retest, but they don't close it. So you have to, by all means, always close a bug that has been retested. And even if a bug is not being, if depending on what the case may be, if it's being rejected, if there's any need for it to be closed while it's being rejected, you have to close it pending, like as I said on the enhancement one. If it's enhancement, then you have to close it because it's like minor, it's not an issue. And then if it's something like the third one, it depends on what it is. If you have to close it, even though it's deferred, or you might have to leave it like that, as long as you have is in the state of deferred. And then when it's also rejected, like as I said earlier, it depends on what it is. If it's not reproducible, you have to, there has to be a closure. So you as a tester have to find out why it is not replicating on other people's laptop. If you can find a defect, why are other people not finding a defect? Is it as a result of you not following the steps properly? Is it as a result of them using a different browser or from your browser or your configuration? It could be anything. It could be the setting of your laptop that is making the test to fail. So that's why most times that's when we kind of do some kind of peer programming as well. If you find a defect, you can always ask your colleague to say, even in this internship, and say, can you check it for me on your side if it replicates the same thing? So those are the extra steps you need to take once you find a defect. Not all defects are valid. That's the truth. Some are cosmetic, while some are critical. But it's good to always have eyes for details. For the fact that when you find a bug and sometimes it then comes back to you and say, oh, it's not a bug, doesn't mean you don't know what you are doing. Like as I said earlier, you even finding that is not part of your AC, your acceptance criteria, is not part of the requirement, and you raised it as a bug. It shows that you know what you are doing, you have eyes for details, you have a clear understanding of what you are supposed to get. And then by the time your test lead or whoever then explain the reason why it's not a critical bug, or why it's not a bug, or why it's not valid, you would then get a even clearer understanding of what you are doing. So it helps even more. That's it's just part of the process, and then it helps you even get better, because then when you get to another organization, if you find yourself in such shoes, you will know how to deal with such situations. So whichever way, you finding a bug and then your test lead is saying it's not a bug and you thinking it's a bug, is not wrong. So this is me trying to let you know, guys, now that if you start working on any environment or on any requirement or any acceptance criteria, if you feel this should be a bug, raise it as a bug. Then if it then comes back to you and say, oh, it's not a bug, it's totally fine, rather than thinking, oh, should I not raise this thing as a bug? Oh, what if I raise it as a bug and then they say it's not a bug? No, go ahead and raise it as a bug. I like raising bugs, but then when I worked as a developer, trust me, I hate raising bugs. So when I was doing both tester and working as a tester and as a developer, when I find a bug as a tester, I kind of rather than raising a bug, I'll say, oh, let's meet, let's talk about it. So it depends. That was me being biased because I am now a developer. But yeah, as a tester, you have to raise a bug. That's the truth. I hope it's clear enough for every one of us. So when do testers close the defect, which is what I've just practically explained. So we have the fixed. So fixed as in when the bug is fixed, then you can close it. It is very, very essential for you to close it. And then when the defect cannot reproduce, when the test lead cannot see, it cannot, the defect is not replicating on the side of the test lead, on the laptop of the test lead or the developer, then it can be closed until you find a proper solution or to prove it, to justify the defect. And then as well as duplicate, we've talked about it. Then obsolete is when that features or PBI is no longer on the board. Then deferred, I just talked about that as well. And then the rejected. Then we talk about bug triage. I don't know if any of you have heard of the word bug triage. So basically, bug triage is another what will I call it now, process of is a different process in which defect is being handled. So in terms of bug triage, when it goes with the complexity, the severity, how critical the bug is. So in bug triage, it's called triage because it involves the development team. So you then come together and have like a meeting. Then you talked about all the defects. Maybe you have more than 3, 4, 5 defects. And then the stake, which involves the stakeholders, the BAs and all that, they will then decide which one to go for. The one that is essential, the one that they need most now. So bug triage is the process whereby reported bugs are being prioritized and categorized based on their severity, impact, and other relevant factors.